like seafood.
So here we are in Dublin. This is Dunleary, by the way, and that's an Irish word. We have here in Ireland, we are about 300 miles long by about 150 miles wide. So you're never more than 75 miles from the sea. Míle fáilte, 100,000 welcomes to each and every one of you. On behalf of myself, Alan, and our driver, Larry, we're going to be looking after you today. We're going to bring you up into Dublin. We're going to bring you around and show you the sights, and then we're going to go on a cruise on the River Liffey. So we're looking forward to have a good day. Now, looking down the coach, I see you all got great big smiles on your face. I have to say, I'm sorry to say, but I am not in good form today. I woke up at 6 a.m. this morning, went down to the kitchen, and my pet mouse Elvis was dead. He got caught in a trap. Now, that's the standard of joke for the morning, okay? So there's another coach going here. If you want to go on that one, his jokes might be slightly better. Now, when we get going, we'll be driving through suburbia to get into Dublin before we start our tour. So it's okay with you guys, I'll give you a bit of a rundown on Irish history. The Irish potato plays a very important part in Irish history, obviously, because we suffered a terrible famine here about 175 years ago. We'll talk more about that when we're getting moving. No problem. So guys, welcome, as I say, a céad míle fáilte to us. As I said to you earlier, we have two languages here in Ireland. We have Irish and English. And all our signposts are in two languages. They're in the Irish language and indeed in the English language. Now, I know you're on your hollybops, but you have to remember the following fact. We were never, ever, ever, ever invaded by the Romans. The Romans conquered all of Europe. They conquered Wales. They conquered North Africa. They conquered the Middle East. And no matter where the Romans went, the first thing they did was they put in a long, straight roads, and they built towns and they built cities so they could move their armies really quickly throughout their huge empire. But because we were never conquered by the Romans, we didn't develop the same way as the rest of Europe. By 1800, ladies and gentlemen, the population of Ireland is 8.2 million people. Most of us are living as peasants in dire poverty, and we're surviving on 14 pounds of potatoes a day, every day, washed down by buttermilk. This diet there's no meat in the diet, there's no fish in the diet, there's no fowl in the diet. And this diet is just sufficient enough to allow us to work the land for the British. 1845 comes and we have a terrible tragedy. A disease comes in from Europe and attacks the potatoes, and suddenly 8.2 million people are facing starvation. The blight or the disease comes back again in 1846. Meanwhile, Queen Victoria is on the throne. She opens her checkbook. She writes a check for £10,000 for the relief of Irish famine. With that, the British opened the soup kitchens, etc. But by 1847, the British realised they cannot go on feeding the Irish population. The Irish population, they say, are lazy. They won't feed themselves, although they can't. And they closed down all the soup kitchens, and they declared the blight or the disease as an act of God. 1847 in Ireland, ladies and gentlemen, is known as Black 47, because during 1847 over 490,000 people died of starvation. The famine finally leaves us in 1852, by which time the population has been reduced from 8.2 million people down to under 4 million people. 2 million people have gone to America, to Canada, to Australia, to New York, to New Zealand, to Britain, and that's why today we have over 80 million people worldwide claiming Irish heritage. A further 2 million people died of starvation. This is why we call it the Gorta Mór, the Great Hunger. It's still a scar today on our life. If you look around Dublin this morning, when we get there, you'll see the vast majority of the population are young people. 30% of our population at the moment is under the age of 25.
Saddlebag.
I'm now going to bring you into Merrion Square, okay? And I'm going to explain to you all about what's happening. Welcome to Merrion Square. I know the bloody bus is in the way here behind me, but these houses are where the creme de la creme live. They're 4 stories over a basement. One family would live in this house, a master and mistress, probably 1 or 2 children, and they would have maybe 10 or 12 servants looking after them. The rooms inside these houses would be 16 foot high. The marble staircases, the marble will come from Carrara in Italy. A fan light, can you see the fan light over the doors? There are 5 Georgian squares, ladies and gentlemen. No 2 fan lights are the same throughout the entire Georgian squares, okay? So who lived in these houses? The creme de la creme. In this very first house lived a guy called Oscar Wilde. Are you familiar with Oscar Wilde? Yeah. And here's the bold Oscar here behind me, right? Now look at this. If you stand on this side of the statue and look up, he's snarling, okay? Stand up on this side of the statue, he's smiling. So what's he smiling at? And this is where I have to stop hitting the little woman on the bottom here, right? This is Oscar Wilde's wife, a lady called Constance Lloyd. And they married and they had 2 children. They had Vivian and they had Cyril. And then about 1870, while she was pregnant with the 2nd child, Oscar came home and says, I've something to tell you now. What is it? Oh yes, I'm gay. What? I'm gay. Now back then to be gay was illegal. You couldn't be gay back in Victorian England time, right? Now do you see this here? These lines? Yeah. Very important. This is how we control traffic in Dublin. A single continuous yellow line means no parking at all. A double continuous yellow line means
absolutely
no parking at all. All right. Now I'm going to let the bus go by here, and then we're going to cross the road. We drive on the correct side of the road, so we let this guy go by first. How many of you guys have been to London? What colour are the post boxes in London? Red. Okay.
That's a mailbox.
That's a mailbox, a post box we call this. Okay. It's very important. Again, when we got our freedom in 1922, we had no money, right? So come in here very closely and have a look. What colour are the post boxes in London?
Red.
Look. Look. And what's this all about? This is the British Crown. This says R for Rex, which means the Latin for king. E for Edward. V11 is 7. Edward VII. He ruled from 1910 to 1919. This pillar box or post box is over 110 years old. But we hadn't got the money to grind off that. So I'm just going to stand here, there's nothing to see. Now you see the guy over here with the yellow and the blue? He's a member of what we call the Garda Síochána. And that's the Irish word for guardians of the peace. We have 16,000 Garda Síochána men and women. 92 only carry firearms. Every other one does not carry any firearm whatsoever. It is illegal for me in Ireland to own a gun unless I'm a member of a gun club or I'm a farmer. If I'm a farmer, I'm allowed a shotgun. If I'm a normal member of a gun club, I'm allowed whatever I'm allowed, but I must leave the gun in the gun club. Now for me to stand here and say, oh, there's no guns in Ireland, pure bullshit. I wouldn't do that to you. Why? Because we have drugs here like everywhere else. And where there's drugs, sadly, there's crime and there's guns. So now, as we go around the corner, have a look at these magnificent houses with the railings. Now the ceilings in here are 16 foot high.
Okay, on the left-hand side is St. Patrick's Park, and if you look slightly behind you, you see the beautiful cathedral. This cathedral is, as I say, built in 1190. There's been a church on that site since about 540, and when the British came into Ireland, they were master stone builders, and this is what they built. If you look out at the right, you'll see how much the streets of Dublin have risen in the last 800 years. Now, just coming up on the left-hand side, ladies and gentlemen, are the walls of Dublin City. These, I promise you faithfully, are the original walls of Dublin City, dating back to 1240. Now, when the British came in here in 1190, the first thing they did was they threw a wall up around Dublin. And the idea, that's great, Larry, thank you very much. The walls were just set up here, and if you lived behind the walls, you had to pay a fee. Now, behind the walls, all the houses back in the 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th century were all made of wood. And open flame, or as we call it, naked flame, was prohibited. So out through the archway down here on your left-hand side, you can see the archway, the women would come out into Cook Street at breakfast time, dinner time and lunchtime, and they would cook the meals. So this is why it's called Cook Street. So this is the first Uber Eats, going back to the 12th century. Now this is the River Liffey, and this is the River Liffey that we'll be going on later on, further down towards the port. Over on the left-hand side of the street will be a pub called the Brazen Head. And this is the oldest pub in Ireland. It dates back to 1198. And one of those bridges is coming up very shortly, and it's called the James Joyce Bridge, named after the author of Ulysses. And if you look at this bridge as we drive by, it looks like an open book. Here's the brewery here on my left-hand side, the Guinness Brewery. So here we are now into the Phoenix Park, folks. No commercial traffic is allowed in this park. It's 1,776 acres. Over here we'll get a better view as to leave is the People's Gardens. So the American ambassador lives in this park. Deerfield House is the name of the ambassador's house, and if the American flag is flying, it means the American ambassador is resident. He is not away on official business. So we'll just check and see if he's there. And also, the American government pay the Irish government the grand total of $1 a year rent. So here we go now, folks. If you look over on the left-hand side, you see the entrance to the American ambassador's house, and the American flag is flying over here on my left as we go around the roundabout. And we're going to go back round and show you where the Irish president lives now. We have a president, although we're a republic. The president has very little power. She has to just sign our laws. No law can become legal unless it has the president's signature on it. And she lives in this house here on my left hand side. You'll get a better view of it now in a few minutes. We need to give Kieran a minute or two to.
Get one of the windows, okay? There's 3 windows that open if you're using this, okay?
Thank you.
Welcome on board.
Right there, folks, welcome on board. The name of this vessel is the Spirit of Docklands. My name is Mark. I'll be your skipper today. That just means I get to drive you up and down the river. Out the back, somewhere there, that tall fellow you saw, that's Jerry. Now, Jerry's going to give us a hand in a few moments. He's going to undo the lines, he's going to let us loose. After that, he's going to rejoin us all back down here. And for the remainder of this trip, for the next 45 minutes or so, Jerry's going to be the person to get to tell you just some of the history surrounding Dublin and the Docklands.
Now, folks, you're very welcome. Everybody hear me? Give it 5 minutes, we'll be sick of the sound of my voice. So, you're very welcome. Welcome to the Irish Riviera, the river on which the sun always shines. Anybody here yesterday? Okay, it was very different. So look, I'm going to be your tour guide, and there are 2 things I need to make you aware of at the start of the tour. 2 principles every tour on this river follows. The first is we never let the truth get in the way of a good story, okay? Now, unfortunately, Alan was on board, so as a fellow tour guide, I'll have to tell a version of the truth. If it's a bad tour, it's his fault, okay? Alan, we're on the same side. Don't let the tourists know what I'm telling, guys. There's a reason we don't have Wi-Fi on the boat. Now, you all look very worried. Not all the tour is this depressing, okay? Don't leave modern Dublin behind. Modern Dublin is separated from the old part of the city by our favourite bridge in the world. This is the Matt Talbot Bridge. He was born in Dublin in 1856. Much more importantly, Matt Talbot is the world's patron saint of alcoholics. So welcome to Ireland. This is the most famous boat in Ireland. This is an example of what we call a famine ship, okay? So between 1845 and 1855, a quarter of the Irish population, more than 2 million of us, were forced to leave Ireland on board boats just like the one you see here. I say just like because the Jeannie Johnson that sits on the banks of this river is an exact replica of the original, which has been at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean since 1858. The replica was rebuilt using the original plans, and the boat you see here in front of you has sailed twice from Ireland to North America. Very important question. Of all the boats that left Ireland, they reckon about 5,000 voyages were made. Why did they decide to rebuild this boat? Why is it moored on the banks of our capital city? Why has it been turned into a tourist, educational and cultural attraction? Believe it or not, folks, that boat over your shoulder is a miracle. The original Jeannie Johnson sailed 16 times in 8 years. It took nearly 3,000 people away from here. Nobody ever died on that boat. Even when it sank on its final voyage, every single person was rescued after 9 days adrift in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean by a passing Dutch vessel. So look, this is the Samuel Beckett Bridge. Beckett was born in Dublin, the man who wrote Waiting for Godot, the third man from Dublin to win the Nobel Prize for Literature, the only city in the world to have that honour. Ladies and gentlemen, we love our writers in Dublin. We just don't love them enough to read their books or attend their plays. So to feel less guilty, we name bridges over this river, we name ferries to Britain, and we name ships in our all-conquering navy after our writers. But if you quickly look here to your right, into the middle of the river, you see these large concrete pillars, what look like enormous door stoppers. You see 4 on this side, you see 3 on the other, because believe it or not, they are here to protect this bridge when it opens. It can open all the way left, all the way right. The bridge in the distance opens, the one above your head opens. The bridge we started from, the O'Casey Bridge, also opens. Although, believe it or not, we were unable to open the bridge we began the tour from for 4 years during the noughties for the fantastically Irish reason the City Council lost the remote control to that bridge when they moved offices. Now, welcome to Docklands. Sadly, this whole area has been redeveloped in the last 25 years. I say sadly because in Dublin, redeveloped generally means knock anything interesting down and replace it with bland buildings with lots of glass. The one on your left has got a bit of character. That is our convention centre, holds 8,000 people, known to us by a nickname. That is the Dyson vacuum cleaner, for obvious reasons. And my friend, if you're going to drink Guinness while you're in Ireland, pay close attention to that atrium. It's 180 feet tall, it's 120 feet across, it's the perfect angle a barman must hold a pint glass when pouring a pint of Guinness. Nice. Now, look, because you're sitting here, notice something that we don't have on this river. Boats. Okay, notice the only 2 boats that we have here are both black with a white head, my friend. You may have seen a sports stadium. Any of you folks on board fans of college football? Okay, so look, once a year, we generally have a big college football game in Dublin. It normally involves the Fighting Irish. It's normally Notre Dame against Navy or Northwestern. So look, we have 2 big stadiums in Dublin. Any Steelers or Vikings fans on board? Oh, I said the wrong thing. Okay. Okay, so allow me to explain. So in a second, you're going to see a sports stadium coming into view on your left-hand side. It's called the Aviva Stadium. It used to be called Lansdowne Road. It's the oldest international rugby stadium in the world. It's just going to be coming into view in about 2 seconds. The first international rugby match took place in that stadium in 1873, Ireland versus Scotland. It's been redeveloped. That is generally where we play soccer and rugby, okay? We got a much bigger, that holds for 54,000 people. We have a much bigger, a much nicer stadium on the other side of the city called Croke Park. Croke Park holds 82,500 people. Now, very quickly, I want you to catch the name of the pub just before we head under the bridge, because the last part of this tour begins with the name of that pub. You see the Irish flag, green, white and orange. The flag next door to it is the flag of Dublin, light blue, navy blue, 3 castles burning. But that pub has sat on that corner for 240 years, okay? When it was finished in 1780, it was literally built right overlooking the sea. But it is the name of that pub that we are most concerned with. Because folks, the name of that pub will give you a fair idea of quite how much this part of our city has changed. So, it's called the Ferryman. Because if you lived here 42 years ago, you had 3 choices to cross this river. You could swim, please don't, Guinness is not made of living water, my friend. That's a lie we tell to tourists. You could walk a very long way, but the easiest way to cross this river was by ferry. We had ferries for 319 years, okay? The first one was in 1665. The last ferry on this river stopped the day the bridge we turned round that opened. Sorry folks, that's the Irish Navy over your shoulder. I'm not joking, there we go. There are rumours that the Iranians are trying to lay mines in this river, so we sent the Navy out to make sure it's not blockaded. Look, sorry, I got distracted, yeah. Now, 42 years ago, the last ferry stopped running the day the bridge we turned round and opened. So the last 42 years have been very difficult for us, because ask anyone from this city why they believe the river is here and we'll all give you the same answer. This river is here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to keep the people that live on that side of the river as far apart as possible from the people that live on this side. Because there are two types of Dubliners in this world. If you're from the left side, you're a south sider. If you're from the right side, you're a north sider. Very important distinction. South side, white collar, middle class, far too much money. North side, blue collar, working class, no money whatsoever. Now folks, I'm afraid, I don't mean to scare you, but things have got worse. We've now mobilised the rest of the Irish Navy. This is the rest of our Navy here. Give them a wave. There we go. Into battle they go.